Robbie, you opened sort of jokingly, but also very seriously that you're in military occupied DC. You too, Diana, when you get back home. So this has been all over the news. Trump has lied and said that crime is out of control in Washington, D.C., and he's using that as the quote unquote emergency as an excuse to send in military troops. What have you seen on the ground?
Well, I think the thing is like most top of mind for me is that two cities that are connected to me have been right on top of the news. So Washington, D.C., where Diane and I live, and the offices for PRI are just 3 blocks from the White House, right downtown. And then the other city that's been in the news is my hometown of Jackson, Mississippi. Now, what do these two things have in common? Well, one of them has been falsely accused, DC, of having an awful, awful crime rate when in fact it's at a 30-year low. And just like everything, Trump doesn't like that statistic. So now he's like mucking around trying to mess with the statistics and accusing them of being, falsely put forward and all of that. The other place, Jackson, Mississippi, where I was raised, is in fact the place with the highest murder rate in the country. And the governor of Mississippi is sending National Guard troops to DC, right, as part of this political theater, just to kind of performatively curry favor with Trump and, like all these kind of red states sending troops to DC. But I mean, the word you use, I think this is the thing we're going to have to just like slow down everything that is happening that is like breaking the Constitution, that's breaking our democracy, is happening because the false assertion of an emergency.
Yes.
Like this is like always right out of the dictator's playbook, right? You exploit, and like countries are set up and constitutions are set up with the need for extraordinary policies that can be invoked in times of genuine emergency. You do need those kinds of policies, but always the dictators exploit them. And like this is true of tariffs. This is true of the thing we're talking about here with in DC. So I spent a week ago after this happened, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go down to DC. And so I wrote about it. Some of you may have seen it on my Substack, and just went down and took my usual route in, went down to the White House. And it other than the fact that at Union Station there are now big, massive military vehicles parked on the lawn at Union Station. But other than that, I took a video of like this very diverse crowd of people doing like the Macarena in front of the White House. Like that's what's going on in DC, right? And as we're taping this tonight, we just got word that many may remember the stunt that Trump pulled. Like you may remember the Bible, right, that he held up in front of St. John's Episcopal Church. But people forget what happened right before that, right? Is that what he was wanting to do was to have a violent confrontation with a group of protesters to kind of show his macho bona fides, right? And then march over to the church and show the Bible, right? So it was going to be like weaponry and the Bible, right? That's what he was trying to kind of put in the frame together tonight. And so tonight he's saying he is going to accompany ICE on patrols through this kind of city of DC, right? And with cameras, of course, right? This is a total photo op. And so first of all, let's just think about this. How dangerous could it be if they're going to let the president walk down the street tonight? Like if it was really that bad, the Secret Service wouldn't let him anywhere near the streets of DC. So it's kind of hypocrisy right there. But the other thing that I think is what's so dangerous about this and what I'm worried about is this is an intentional, provocative move that they are hoping for conflict, that they can get on camera. They're hoping for conflict where they can like violently react. And they're going to be like a hair trigger tonight. So, I mean, I'm hoping like all my friends are staying home tonight, right? Doors locked, not out on the porch, like inside. And just to make this really, really personal, and I'll pass the mic here, but I mean, we've lived here for 20 years. I've had two, I've got a 15-year-old, I had a 24-year-old. So two kids have kind of in and or gone through their teenage years. A not uncommon thing, right, is for my daughter or my son to say, hey, some friends and I are going to get on the metro, we're going to go down to DC, we're going to go to a restaurant or a museum or just go to the farmer's market, walk around. And I have never had any worry about. I'm like I take the metro to work all the time, right? I've never ever had any worry. Like, of course, I do all the things, call me when you get there, let me, or text me when you get there, all the kind of parenting things you do. But I've never actually worried that much about their well-being. They've got their wits about them. This last weekend, my son said, "Hey, some friends of mine are going to go down to DuPont Circle. There's a bookstore down there. We're going to kind of get something to eat. There's a little farmer's market." And I had to like say to him, do not get off at Union Station. Like, whatever you do, steer clear of Union Station. If you see anyone other than DC police, if you see anyone in a military gear, if you see anyone in tactical gear, if you see anyone in a flak jacket, cross the other side of the street, keep your distance, do not go anywhere near them. And I've never in my life here had to say that to my son. Now, as I say that, I'm aware that I am a white guy, right, who has never had to have the talk, right, with his black son, right, which I know is, a point of privilege here. But like it's just this thing, like nobody is safe with those goons walking around downtown. I mean, they're already, one last thing, and they're already, and this is something people really need to know, they are lowering all the barriers to who they're hiring for ICE, right? They have lowered the barrier. It used to be 21, now it's 18. No college degree required, no other experience required. They're actually recruiting in this fascist posters fathers and sons with messages like, we're taking father-son bonding to a whole new level. Trying to get fathers and sons both to sign up to be ICE agents. They've also removed the upper end of the age barrier to hire. They used to be 40, then it was 45. Now there's no upper bound. So they can hire fathers, sons, and I guess grandparents too, if they really want to get a multi-generational people being shock troops for the president. But it's a really scary time here in DC. I mean, it's no joke. And DC has this kind of special relationship where he can do this at least for 30 days with this fake declaration of an emergency here. But I will guarantee you this, this is coming to a city near you. So unless you think this is just like some little sideshow, this is a warm up, a tryout, absolutely, to see how this goes. And we're going to see this through cities all across America if we can't figure out a way to put a stop to this.
The idea too of going from the Bible to the military thing, there's a little clip that's circulating on social media. It's of Todd Starnes. So talking about somebody who started his career as a religion journalist and writing columns about religion. He now has a kind of a conservative talk show and his own little media empire. Today on the Todd Starnes show, after this news broke, Starnes actually said, "Does the president have a gun? Are they going to let him tase somebody? I want to see my president tase somebody tonight. That's what I want to see." That's the former religion writer, who always used to attack me, actually, because he said I was like heretical all the time. And so that's his view, what he wants to see now. The president who once had a Bible, he wants to see him hurt someone with a gun, a taser, but a gun on the streets of DC. You can kill somebody with a taser if you don't know how to use one. So that's the mentality.
That's part of what gets me the glee that goes along with the gore. People are spoiling for violent confrontations. And they're out to provoke it, like you said, Robbie. They're going to be out tonight on a hair trigger, looking for nothing but a photo op. This feels so dystopian because it is, and so inhumane. And I always am cycling back to the PRRI data about white Christian nationalists being so much more open to using violence to achieve political ends. Of course, I don't remember the exact numbers, but that always stood out to me because I said that's what's going to come and be the most visible, the most immediately lethal manifestation of this ideology. I'm very, very concerned right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sitting here having this conversation, I'm thinking 12 months ago, 24 months ago, we were talking about these things. We were talking about the survey data on levels of comfort with political violence, white Christian nationalism. We were talking about the authoritarian playbook. We were talking about all of the things that they were saying they were going to do, the things that they were signaling they were going to do. And, I really thought the challenge was a communication one, right? We had to get in front of more people and tell them this is what we're looking at. Like, really, this is what comes when you check these boxes. And now that we're here, and it is happening, and it is on our streets, and we have masked militias not identifying themselves. Who knows who these people are? People getting slammed to the ground and disappeared and all these things, and we're still here. I just I wish I could go back to that former me and just say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, it mattered so much, and yet what does it take? I thought people would be much more ready to defend this country. I really thought people's threshold was lower for what they would accept before they were out in the streets, putting their bodies on the line, at the very least saying something. And with each passing day, we have more horrors, and yet here we still are. Somebody who needs to bring a word of hope.
This stuff is heavy, and I think if you're listening, you hear the pauses and the very personal nature of what's happening right now, whether it's James Dobson and growing up in faith communities that just swallowed his toxic theology hook, line, and sinker, whether it's being plastered on the front page of a newsletter that's going out to millions of people, whether it is concern for your children going into the city that they've grown up in and you've never had this kind of concern about. This is real. And like we said, it's coming to a city near you. I don't think we can hold these things at arm's length and look at the news and say, oh, that's so unfortunate. Thank God it's not here. It is here. It's just a matter of time. So I do think there's a grieving for our democracy that we need to hold space for, even while we continue to try to resist in whatever ways we can. To me, that's the hope, right? Like when people ask me what gives you hope or what, to me, hope is so much less about an emotion or a feeling, and it's so much more about action. To do anything to push back against the injustice, anything to push back against the authoritarianism communicates that you believe change is possible. And you don't know if you'll see it or if your actions will work, but you have enough hope and you have enough faith to try. And if that doesn't, shift your thinking, what's the alternative?
What did Diana say to open us, right? That's when you keep going, right? Right. When you hit the opposition, when people are pouncing on you, that's when you keep going. I think that's what that's not when you retreat. That's not when you say, well, I tried, or yeah, I'm not doing that again, right? And that's when you keep going. And enough people just keep going, that's when change happens.
This story that I told, that Dobson story, that was 1995. And when I just realized it's 30 years ago. I started writing about this stuff in public 35 years ago. trying to warn people about the dangers of the religious right and the dangers of promise keepers and the dangers of hierarchy and what they were up to and how they were hurting LGBT. That's a lot of writing, and it's a lot of speaking, and it's a lot of people not listening. Um, and yet, here I am with you guys. You're my friends, and we're all doing it. And the only thing that I have is, as soon as you ask the question, Kristen, is that I don't know if my thing is cutting out. As soon as you ask the question about, all these words we're putting in this world, my mind immediately went to a verse that actually matters to me. And it has mattered all these years when I felt like no one was paying attention. It's Isaiah 55:11. So shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth, and it shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish what I please, and it shall prosper in the thing for which I sent it. And I think that that's not only the word of God, but in effect, it's the word of all writers who have a story to tell about beauty and truth and all the things we care about, is that words never return void.
Yeah, I'm thinking too, Diana, that it may not return now, right? Like I think about the voices, from like Nazi Germany. A lot of those voices weren't heard in the moment, right? They were lost in the whirlwind, but they were preserved and they took root. And we read Arendt and Bonhoeffer today, right? And still have like lessons for us today. I'm kind of hoping, right, that even if some of this is lost in the whirlwind, that when it comes time to rebuild, some of this will stick around, right? Because we'll have to rebuild some really different structures. And I think the last thing I'm thinking here is that, and this is like part confession on my part, I don't think, as this kind of straight white guy, um, I don't think I've ever experienced the government itself as a menace to my well-being. Right. And I know that is not true, right, for our black and brown brothers and sisters. But, I think a lot of white people experience the government as maybe inept or inefficient or frustrating. And, those kind of, like the DMV moves, makes you wait 3 hours to get your license. Like that's the kind of thing. But like we're talking about a deep malevolence here. It's evil is what we're talking about, right? It's going to be violent. Like I said, people are going to be disappeared. People are going to be killed. That's what we're looking at, here. And I think white people we don't have that muscle, right, from history to kind of like reach for quickly. Like it's something we're going to have to develop, unfortunately, anew, I think, as we're experiencing this regime and its oppression. I think we've got, like I said, Jamar, I'm looking behind you. We've got lots of good examples right over your shoulder to learn from. But those aren't lessons we own, I don't think. And we're going to have to figure out how to do that.